Okay, so we're starting a new letter. Always excited to start something fresh, a new start. In case sort of we just got distracted, we get to start fresh. There's a fantastic sikha of the Rebbe. The Rebbe asks the question: why did Hashem make it that human beings have to sleep? If you think about it, why do you have to sleep? Your heart pumps 365, 24/7. Your body, the blood pressure, your whole system, everything runs 24/7. So your eyes have to rest. I mean, what is it? So you have to rest your body. Your body is always running. So what's this idea of sleeping? And he says something very fascinating. If Hashem would make it, we wouldn't have to sleep. Life would be one long glump. He doesn't use the word glump. That's my word. One word glump. What does it mean? You never have a chance to say tomorrow's going to be better. If you have a bad day today, you can say, you know what? Today wasn't great. Tomorrow's better. You have an argument with your mother, a problem with your kids, something. Tomorrow's going to be fresh. And also every week is a new start. Every month is a new start. Hashem made the world that there's constantly new starts. With that, if we had a bad day, the expression we say in Chassidut by Chassidim, Margiv v'zayin gar anders. Tomorrow's going to be different. Tomorrow, fresh start. So the same thing is true when we're learning. If the whole Torah was just one long book, it would be, okay, so I didn't pay attention. What can I get back on track again? So we have something called new chapters, new sections, new things. I can start fresh. The Alter Rebbe could have written the Tanya seemingly one long chapter. Like in any book, just one long. He made it in sections. We got distracted. We sort of got lost the flow. Fresh start today. Even though we're continuing the same theme, tzedakah, and we spoke many aspects of tzedakah, today we're going to begin something new and fresh. And actually, it's one of these really enjoyable topics where we're going to analyze emotions, and particular, not just emotion, but character traits, behaviors, and see the depth and the truth. What is the motivating force behind a particular character trait? It's a very enjoyable chapter. Okay, chapter 6, it's actually not chapters, they're called letters. In the English, they call them epistles. I don't know what epistles mean, but assuming it means a letter. So Epistle 6, or as we say, chapter 6. This is a quote that the Alter Rebbe quotes from the book of Mishlei. The book of Mishlei, or Sefer Mishlei, Proverbs, I don't really learn. The only time I learn it is, we have a line from it, we study it. Yesterday, I just took the time to read through this chapter where this line's come from. It is such a fascinating chapter. It basically, every verse, he has two opposite descriptions of a very positive and very negative, positive and negative, or negative and positive. King Solomon is describing behaviors and traits and qualities and natures and things are in a very good way and a very unhealthy way. And he goes and it continues, very fascinating. So one of the lines, it's verse 18 in this chapter, I think it's chapter 11. He said 11. He says, is this line, it says about wicked people, everything they do is not good and they acquire negatives. But Zereya Tzedakah, somebody who plants charity, or in other words, we could say, just for our case, invest in charity, Secher Emes. His reward is truth. Usually the way we say the word schar, here it happens to be Secher. Now, just to know, on all these verses, there's so many commentaries what it means. Usually we go with Rashi's simple definition. But Tanya, of course, is taking us to another level. Rashi describes, what does it mean, Secher Emes? And he gives two choices. Either the word Secher means to close, and he uses an example there, like when you have a river and you want to close an area off, let's say because you're farming fish, it's called Secher, you make a close, meaning what it brings to, what the result is. Or Secher can mean literally a reward. Different opinions what Secher means. But the reward is, he says, Secher Emes, you get a true reward. That means you get a reward that's true. There are things in life that aren't so true. You get something that doesn't last. You give a kid an ice cream cone and you tell him to hold it for an hour in the sun. The truth of the ice cream cone is gone. It was great the first 2 minutes. Now it's just a pile of liquid and it's a disaster. There are some rewards, some things you get in life that they're very wonderful, but it's lacking substance or it doesn't hold, or you give somebody a winter coat in the summer, it's not so appreciated. Everything has a certain truth when it's really appreciated. Or you give someone and it gets lost. You give someone, I give an example. You give a little kid here. He's traveling from New York back home. He said, I bought you a giant motor car, one of the electric cars. How am I going to get it home? That's not a good. So a truthful gift, the true reward, is in all components. It's good. It's good. The Alter Rebbe uses the word here, pirish. Whenever he has the word pirish, it means I'm telling you a new interpretation. The regular interpretation is that Secher Emes means you get a reward. Someone who gives tzedakah, someone who's kind, gets a reward. That's truthful reward, a good reward, meaning it's quality. He says, no. What does Secher Emes means? The reward is truth. What do you get? for giving tzedakah, you get a special gift. It's called truth. And if you want to say, what is this chapter about? The definition of truth versus relativity. Sometimes the relative truth. It's true here, it's true. But no, truth, like it says, the famous argument about Noach we had just a few weeks ago. It says Noach was a tzaddik in his times. And there's two definitions. One is in his times, in the difficult times when there was no good influences, he was a tzaddik. Imagine how righteous he would be if he'd been in times of Abraham when there's influences, or in times of, Moshe Rabbeinu. Another interpretation is tzaddik in his time means compared to the guys who lived in his time, he was a tzaddik. If you would put him somewhere else, it would be nothing special. Some people compared to the famous joke, I think we've mentioned many times. My grandfather would tell us this, that this guy, he passed away, but the guy was no good, a real piece of work. And when he died, they said, could anyone say something good about him? Quiet. Crickets, Can anyone say something good about, Yankel? Quiet. Finally, one guy gets up, he says, I knew his brother was worse. So what does that mean? What makes him good compared to his brother? So we're going to see what's the definition of truth. We're going to come in this chapter. What's truth? Truth means that it's absolute truth. And it's a very fascinating idea. It has to do with consistency, always true. Also, another very famous example is, we probably mentioned in the past too, because it's very, very, it was a special sikha. In 1982, I believe, when the Rebbe had his 80th birthday, it was a really big, the 70th birthday of the Rebbe was called the Yud Alef Nissen Haggadah, the big Yud Alef Nissen. It was a huge, it was a first big farbrengen that made for his birthday. It was very, very big farbrengen. But 10 years later, on his 80th birthday, he also had a really big farbrengen. And one of the things the Rebbe said was that he referenced that there was recently, I think it was Time magazine, had something called the Man of the Year. And the Rebbe said, I don't understand. If he was a mensch last year, and he's a mensch this year, then why is he called Man of the Year? He's just a man. He's a mensch. What do you mean he's a Man of the Year? And if he wasn't a mensch last year, he's not a mensch next year, just a mensch this year, he's not a mensch either. A guy says, I only steal, on these certain days of the week. So truth, goodness has to be consistent. What do you mean? I'm a good guy on Wednesdays. On Tuesdays, I like to beat up people. That's not a good guy. Consistency means, so you have to get into the definition of truth. But he says the definition is truth. Okay. And that's what he says. Pirish says, Char Zeriyas Hatzdaka, he midas Emes. What is the reward, says the Alter Rebbe, different than the commentaries on the Chumash, on the Mishlei? He says the definition of truth of this pasuk is, welcome. The definition of this pasuk is that if someone gives tzedakah, they get a reward. What's that reward? Called truth. Hashem gives us truth as a reward. Then he says something else. And by the way, what's the question that he's asking here? He doesn't say the question, but you should know the question is, what's the connection? Usually reward matches the mitzvah. Someone, gives kindness to somebody else, Hashem gives you kindness. Somebody extends themselves, Hashem extends himself. Rewards are always the midah connected midah. How does truth come as a reciprocated act for kindness? If we're kind, we give tzedakah, Hashem should give us tzedakah. What does it mean if we're kind, Hashem gives us truth? Besides the fact, what does truth mean? What does it mean that Hashem gives us truth? Why is that a result? The result, you put in ingredients to a cake, you should get a cake. You don't get a little baby chicken because it's not the right ingredients. How is Emes the result of tzedakah? Then we have another verse. The verse says, Uksiv titin Emes leYaakov. He gives, it says, you give truth to Yaakov. Now, Rashi again translates this verse and other commentaries. The Onkelos translated, Titan Emes, Hashem, please give truth to Yaakov. It's a request, it's a prayer. Titan Emes leYaakov. The Alter Rebbe says, no, you know what it means here? Titan Emes leYaakov, we're praising God. You give truth to Yaakov. So what does that mean, that Hashem gives truth to Yaakov? And why do you have to give truth to Yaakov? Yaakov is true. We know the definition of Yaakov, as we'll see in a moment. Every one of the forefathers, we'll get into this in a second, represents a certain character trait, which is the identity of what they are symbolically. Avraham is chesed, which really is ahava. Meaning chesed, the attribute of chesed, its primary expression, chesed means attraction. That's what chesed really is. I'm attracted to something. I want to be part of something. What's its primary expression? Ahava, love. When you're attracted, when you want something, is love. Gevura, by definition, is rejection. Rejection, we a lot of times think means a bad thing. Rejection is a very good thing also, as we'll see. It's a very healthy thing. But what does that really mean? Fear. What does reject means? I'm pushing it away. I'm standing at a bit of a distance. That means yira. I'm in awe of it. I give this a lot of respect. So really, when I have gevura, it's not really it's like I give space to a big rabbi. I'm not giving, or a very, say you can't, I don't know which leaders would be an example of a great leader, but let's say in the olden days, you had great leaders like David HaMelech, etc. All that you give them, I'm pushing them away. It doesn't mean I'm rejecting them because they're not good. I'm rejecting them because they're so special. It's a awe. It comes yira. So the Ava, Avram is Chesed, which is Ava, and we'll go into that. Yitzchak is Gevura, which is yira. What's Yaakov? Yaakov is known as Emes, truth, which is really, and we're going to see, we're going to have three words here that we have to really go deep into what they mean. The word Rachamim, which is mercy. We know Yaakov is the third attribute, which is mercy. We know it's called Tiferes, and we know it's called Emes, truth. And the truth is, these are all, we're going to talk about these three words, how they're all not synonymous, but they're all the same theme. Rachamim, Tiferes, and Emes are very, very important that we understand them properly. We'll see how they're all the same theme. I'm going to get to that in a second. But the question is, why is Hashem giving Emes to Yaakov? Yaakov is Emes. It's like saying, I went to give charity to the rich guy. Now, unfortunately, that's the way it works. Who do people tell wise words to? A wise person. People don't go over to tell a silly guy, hey, I want to tell you something incredibly smart. Let me tell a joke to. You want to tell a rich man, it's somebody you lend money to, you do business with. So really, that's how it is. But why is Hashem giving truth to Yaakov? What does that mean? Yaakov is truth. He already is truth. What's Hashem giving him? He says, "V'shivcha de kuchabrichu misade navi." And we say this is not like the other commentaries that say it's a request. We're praying to Hashem. We're actually praising Hashem. Thank you. You gave kindness to Yaakov. Sorry, you gave truth to Yaakov. Pirish, what does it mean? And this again, the Alter Rebbe is giving his pirish different than the pasuk. Shakadosh Baruch Hu anoisen midas emes to Yaakov. He gives truth to Yaakov. We have to understand. Yaakov doesn't have truth. He said Hashem gives truth to Yaakov. What was Yaakov before Hashem gave him truth? He was also truth. So what did Hashem add or be strengthened or do here? That Hashem has to give him from above. So let's go now to understand this. We have to really go and analyze these ideas of really. We're going to analyze Rachamim, Tiferes, and Emes, these things. But let's take a step back for a second. Take the word Chesed and Gvura. I remember this about 2-3 years ago. We had a concept here where some people were very surprised to hear that Chesed, kindness, refers to the man, and Gvura, or we say the father, I should say, and Gvura is the mother. And the question was, isn't the mother the one who's kind? So it really depends how you understand Chesed and Gvura. See, Chesed and Gvura, yes, Chesed is the one who gives, Gvura is the one who really holds back. Or as we say, I talked to one of the kids yesterday at the kosher club, I was explaining it to hand, Chesed is Hashem giving without a filter, Gvura is holding back that Hashem gives in a measured amount. Instead of a mother giving a kid 1,000 bars of chocolate, he gives him 1 bar of chocolate once a day, or once every week. Instead of Hashem giving us all the rain in one shot, Hashem gives us little droplets. Chesed is the giving, Gvura is the holding back. And the hand represents that, because Chesed is the hand going in abundance, and Gvura is the restrictions to create fingers that are independent and actually can function. If we just had mittens like Bernie Sanders, that wouldn't help anybody. Pardon. Okay. So he's a mitten guy. Okay. So bottom line is, let's take a step further. Really, Chesed is all about me. Gvura is all about the other. It doesn't sound like that, but let's think for a second. What does Chesed mean? Chesed means I am giving somebody. I'm not considering, does the person need another car? Does he need $1,000, a new fancy watch or clock? Does a person need a new whatever? I want to be kind. I don't think the person needs it or not. I give it to you. Why? Because it makes me feel good. An act of kindness is not because I'm an ego person, because that's what some people feel good by eating steak. Some people, a kind person feels good by acting kind. Avraham Avinu, as we spoke last week, to understand that Hashem created the world, he did not see a guy hungry and wanted to give him food. He said, where's guests? I need guests. What do you need guests for? No one's hungry. Relax. Read a book. I need guests because my nature is to give. Meaning chesed is about me. I need to give. I'm not looking if you need it or not. So chesed really is, it's not about if you're worthy. It's not about if you deserve it. It's not about if you need it. So why am I doing it? Because it's just fun to give presents. I love to buy my grandkids stuff. I love to give them stuff. Why? Because it feels good. Maybe they already have 200 outfits. Now they have 201. In other words, it doesn't matter. Gevura is just the opposite. Is there a need? Is there a need for this? Does the person need something? So Gevurah means I'm measuring. Din, I'm judging. Is there a need for this person to have something? So Gevurah really is all about, does the child need this? Therefore, a child who's a month old, the mother sees he only needs a little formula in a bottle. A child 6 months old might get a little mushy cream or oatmeal, etc. In other words, the father says, well, give the kid a cookie. Why? Because the father doesn't have that always understanding. He'll give at nighttime, before bedtime, the father will give a weird dessert. And the mother will say, what are you doing? Come on. He's a good kid. We love him. The father's not thinking what's good for the kid. He's thinking what feels good. And that's how it works in all of our relationships. Mothers don't have to give gifts. 24/7, they're giving to their kids. A father, I'm giving the kid a big gift. I'm buying the wife a gift. I did the laundry. What are you making it? Because I did it. All day long, because the wife is always thinking what needs to be done. And the husband's more, what could I do? In other words, so it's not a flaw in the wife that she's Gevurah. She just measures, what does each child need? One child needs more love. One needs more care. One needs more this. One needs the cookies. The father remembers what each kid likes. The mother does. In other words, Chesed is about what I feel and I want to express. Gevurah is about what is needed. So what's Rachamim? What's the third thing? So first of all, we have a rule in life. The word Tiferes means beauty. Beauty is only when you mix opposites or differences together. Let's take a painting on the wall, a picture. We said this many times about music. If I made a concert, if the piano had, instead of 72 keys, 1 key, and you played that the whole day, that would not be beautiful. That would be noise. You know what's beautiful? 72 keys, and you know what you're doing. That's beautiful. Why? It's all different sounds coming together. So Tiferes, by definition, means taking different things and bringing them together. So Tiferes, first of all, its definition is, that's why it's called beauty. What's beauty? Beauty is not painting the wall or painting. I made a painting, it's blue. I remember one day, I think it was Mushki, when she was like 4 years old or 5 years old. What do you want to dress up for Purim? Blue. Blue. She wanted the blue dress, blue socks, blue hat. What beauty is when I take all different colors and I make a painting on the wall. What does that mean? So Tiferes is beauty. If I take Chesed and I take Gevurah and I merge them together in harmony in the right way, I get the hand. I get a mother who knows how to mix kindness and strictness. I can give the kid a patch when he sticks his hair clip into the out. Why? Do you love him? Yes, I love him, and that's why he's getting a patch. He'll never do it again. You're such a mean mommy. Your kid ran into traffic and you yelled at him. It's microaggression. You're scaring him. This is how the beauty of a good parent is knows when and where and how to merge these things together. That is Tiferes. Tiferes, on one hand, people think or say a lot of times it's a merge of Chesed and Gevurah. It is, but it's a new creature. It's a new creature. You know what it's called? Mercy. What's mercy? Mercy is one who gives and thinks about the receiver. But unlike din, that's do I deserve it? You don't have to be worth it. Mercy, you don't have to be worth it. You don't have to have any love, not the relationship. What does that mean? I could see somebody who I don't know from Adam fall and twist their ankle, God forbid, in the mall. I don't know the person. And I go, my heart could go out for the person. Oh, you know the person? No. So what do you care? Mercy doesn't have to be someone you love. Mercy is not about me. Mercy is about the other person. I don't have to love a person to have mercy. I don't have to feel for a person. I have mercy because an expression I'm sensing at that moment other. As we mentioned a number of times, the word Rachmanis is the same word as Rechem, which is womb. What's a womb? A woman makes space inside of herself for someone else. This is my space. And she said, I'm moving myself aside. I'm making room for other. Rachmanis means I'm not sensing, I'm sensing the other, but I'm sensing their need, not their worth. Unlike Gevurah says, do you deserve it? Are you worthy? So a guy knocks on your door. He's a stranger. I don't have to give you charity. Why not? I don't know you from Adam. So Gevurah, I serve you if you're my child, because you deserve it. Or you're my employee, because it's a good idea. But Chesed is, I don't know you from Adam. I'm going to give you, even if you're not worthy. So Chesed doesn't take into consideration if you're worthy. He just takes into consideration about giving. Gevurah gives you if you're worthy. Rachamim says, I give you, even if you're not worthy, but it's because it's not about me, it's about you. So Rachamim is a merger of these two, so that's the Tiferes. So Rachamim, and that's what's Emes is. What's Emes? Emes means I know in each situation how to respond, and it's consistent. There's a consistency in my behavior. Somebody said, 1 second, here you did this, here you did that. Let me explain to you. This is what I needed here. This is what I needed here. I'm consistent in every. That's why the word Emes comes with 3 letters. Aleph, the first letter of the Aleph Beis, Mem, the center letter, and Taf, the last letter. Why these 3? Because that is consistency. No matter where, I have this consistency. And therefore, Rachamim is the merger of these two. And as the more you go through it, you see more and more how it's a beautiful merger of two behaviors, creating a third thing called mercy. It's not about me, like Chesed. It's not only about you, of Gur, because if it was, I wouldn't give you, you don't deserve it. It's me sensing your need. It's a merger of the two. Okay, let's see this inside now. Achine, my da'azois, the midas Yaakov, the midas Rachmanas. Midas of Yaakov is Rachmanas. Va'avodas Hashem is Rachmanas. What? Serve Hashem with Rachmanas. And now, very interesting. See, we know how to have Ahavat Hashem. You love Hashem. And we spoke in Tanya about it, either because you love Hashem because all the things that He gives us, life, health, meaning, purpose, everything, or we love Hashem because, without logic, like a parent loves a child. I don't have a reason to love you, just you're me. I love you like I love my own child or my own parent. What's awe? Awe means I'm afraid of you. I'm awe of you. Not afraid, really. Afraid is not a good word. I'm in awe of you. I'm in awe of you either because I realize your greatness or because I realize how high you are, how great you are. Sometimes people are in awe of strength. They feel this power of energy, the strength of an earthquake or something. It's like powerful and scary. Sometimes awe means that I never met such a brilliant person. I'm just in awe. The guy is so incredible. It's different types of awe. Like we said, Iggeres Hakodesh, afraid of God's greatness, etc. But what does it mean to have Rachmanas on Hashem? Oh, Hashem, have Rachmanas on you. Why? I don't know. Why would you have Rachmanas on Hashem? Whatever happened to Hashem that you have to have Rachmanas on him? You got a boo-boo, he twisted his ankle in the mall. He's going to tell you, what does Rachmanas mean? So he says the metaphor. This metaphor I saw from somebody yesterday. He says, a king, actually, I think this metaphor is in the Baal Shem, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's the Baal Shem's metaphor. A king, no, that's different. I'm mixing it up. There's another metaphor that we get to later from Baal Shem. There's another one. This is not the Baal Shem's metaphor. This is a metaphor, I'm not sure where it's from. Bottom line is a king who has a child that was lost, taken, kidnapped, or got lost in the house, etc. He's gone from the palace. Now, there's two things you can have Rachmanas on. You have Rachmanas on the child. What are Rachmanas on him? And he's lost, he's kidnapped, he's alone, he's afraid. Mm-hmm. Then you have Rachmanas on the king. The two different types of mercies. Let me explain to you why the Rachmanas on the parent is really much more than Rachmanas on the kid. Unfortunately, if this kid went off the way, if he was got to be taken from his home and raised by other parents, or taken away and raised in an unhealthy, unwholesome environment, after a couple of years, he adapts to that reality. He forgets who he is, and he becomes, whether it's a hooligan, whether it's a homeless person, whether it's a crook, or whatever he becomes, a prisoner, he adapts to that lifestyle. He becomes that thing, and he forgets his real source. Because what's the cause of somebody's Rachmanas? You see, there's two reasons, there's two parts of why you have mercy on somebody. One is because they have a loss, they have a flaw or a problem. One is because where they were before, the problem is so much bigger. Let's say, for an example, God forbid, a person is born missing a limb or blind. That person is pushing Rachmanas on them. Your heart goes out to the person. But you can't compare it to the person that was born healthy and lost the ability to function. Unfortunately, Mark Goldner has a cousin that he was telling us about, while Hashem should bless her with a tremendous miracle, that she was a very talented, very gifted person. She's in her 30s, and she did something called acrobatics yoga or something. And some fluke accident happened, and in her flip, she landed off the mat. The spotter wasn't there, and she's now a paraplegic. She's 100% paralyzed. But this person, she doesn't want to live. Why not? Because I lived my life fully active, running, going, doing it, and now I'm locked up and I can't function this way. Meaning, when someone loses something, the loss, depending how outgoing functioning you are, compounded by that is the fact that you can't now, even though someone who was born, God forbid, in a wheelchair their whole life is very sad, you can't compare it to someone that had and lost. So there's two parts of mercy. One is what you have, and one is what you lost. So the child here, that's why you have the metaphor of a king, but that's why the metaphor is of a king. This is a king, someone who's on the most exalted place. He falls down to the lowest place. So the first thing is that it's not just someone who's Rachmanas than any homeless person. So Rachmanas than anybody who's lost to crime or whatever. But when that kid came from a good family, and he could have been the king, and he could have been a prince, and that's doubly sad. But there's something else also what happens. The child adapts to that reality. Over time, unfortunately, a person adapts to it. The parent never adapts. The parent will be broken forever. If God forbid, a child is not brought home after he's taken away and lost. And the kid forgets his source and lives a life where he is. the parents are tormented forever. The child, unfortunately, for whatever reason Hashem made us, we adapt to a situation. So for the parent who lost the child, or not want to say lost, where the child went into captivity or went to an unhealthy journey, getting involved with drugs or whatever it might be, for the parent it's much greater torture. That's how it is. Famous example, by the way, as a side note, is a story which I always find as one of the true expressions of understanding, a glimpse into the Rebbe, is the story of the woman who wrote a letter to the Rebbe about her difficulties in life and her challenges and her pain. And the Rebbe wrote back to her, "I feel your pain." And she got very upset. "You feel my pain? You don't know my pain." The Rebbe wrote back a letter to her through Shmuel Kaplan. He wrote it in Hebrew and told Shmuel Kaplan to give over this message in person. The Rebbe told her, "God willing, you're going to be blessed soon to have the fortune of finding a marriage partner. You're going to get married. And then you're going to be blessed in the first year, you're going to have a child." The Rebbe's telling her the story of her life. And then you're going to see that in the first year of the child's life, he begins teething. Or she begins teething. The child teethes. When the child teethes, it's very painful and it hurts tremendously. But it doesn't compare to how much it hurts the mother to watch the child in pain. That's how I feel your pain. Like a mother looking at a child in pain. In other words, for a mother watching a child teeth or watch a child suffer hurts much more. So when I say now, what's the rachmanis we have on Hashem? Hashem has little children. What are they called? Souls. And those souls come down into this world and enter a body. And those souls have an opportunity to come to shul and to do a mitzvah and to say a bracha and to eat kosher food. And sometimes the soul, let's take a step back. For that soul to come into this world, it's a painful journey, very painful. But for that soul to not fulfill its mission, to get lost into the dark world, it's the most greatest torment to Hashem. So Hashem, what's the Rachmanis on Hashem? Our Rachmanis on the Neshamis that are lost in exile, and that's what we're saying here. So how do you have Rachmanis on Hashem? Rachmanis is when Hashem's souls are entered exile. So let's see this inside here. And we're going to see the Alter Rebbe is going to build up this point really nicely here now. I gave out a lot of the information, but now he's going to build it up. To understand this idea of the secher, this thing of truth, let's go and examine the behavior of Yaakov. He made this Rachmanis, his behavior is Rachmanis, as I explained before, Rachmanis is. How does somebody have Rachmanis on Hashem? I know how to have Avraham, kindness. I know how to have Yitzchak, fear. How do I have Yaakov Rachmanis? What do I do? He says, when a person arouses tremendous mercy, belev ha'adam, in the heart of a person, al nitzus alikus shebenafshay, and that spark of God that's inside you. We have a spark of God inside us, that godly soul. And we have a Rachmanis on it. This guy was sitting in a lofty place called heaven, enjoying pure truth and goodness. There's a sikha that hopefully we'll cover at some point, that the Rebbe said on the 25th wedding anniversary. That means he got married in 1929. In 1954 was the Rebbe's 25th wedding anniversary, Yud Dalet Kislev. The Rebbe said a sikha, a farbrengen, and it was two parts of farbrengen. Half the farbrengen was about the customs at his own wedding, that he shares, his own wedding stories. Half the farbrengen is the most saddest farbrengen ever. The most, I don't know if it's sad, most heart-wrenching. He talks about the tragedy of a soul coming down to this world, how difficult it is. And describes just the soul coming here to a world of falsehood and difficulty and challenges. But he says, you know what, it's worth it. It's worth it. But when it's, why? And he goes into the whole, we've been with Viktor Frankl's vision of life. When someone has meaning in life, you can handle anything. But he says, when a soul comes down to this world and it makes the journey and doesn't do what it's supposed to be here, that means the journey's for nothing. There's nothing worse than pain for no reason. Suffering for no reason is the worst suffering. It's the worst type of suffering. And he goes to this whole thing. It's unbelievable for bringing. And what the Rebbe's point is very fascinating. But a soul coming down to this world before a person sins, even if a person lives a good life, it's suffering. The difference is suffering that's worth it. A guy who leaves, there are many people that for their job have to travel away from their families, whether they work in a business or office or traveling salesmen. It's very hard. They come home just once a week, once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks. It's very hard, but it's worth it. Why? Because you support your family. You raise it. You trust you have a good partner in life, and they'll raise the kids as much as they can, and you're providing for your kids. So it's worth it. But if you fail, you travel, and you come back home with no money, that's absolute failure. So the spark that's coming down to this world, you have Rachmanis on it. It's far from the face of God, from God's presence. It goes into the darkness of this world of so much emptiness, Let's just leave it at that. So what really arouses Rahmanis is not just you feel bad for the soul. That'd be one thing, because you feel bad for a guy God forbid born blind. But you're thinking about his soul. What did he have? Look what he gave up. It's one thing if a soul never had anything. They say, no, I feel bad for, sometimes I look at, it's a weird thing to think about. I look at certain rodents and animals. I always wonder, what's the meaning of their life? What do they think about? What's their value? They run around this guy. What's important to them? But they know what? They don't know better. So they're happy. It's ignorance is bliss. But someone who is born to wisdom and greatness, you see, God forbid, someone get dementia. It's so sad. Why so sad? The child who doesn't know what's flying, nobody cares about, because the child never had a chance to be smart yet. The child never had a chance to be brilliant. When the children lived life, and now they go back down a level, downgrading, that's the worst thing. He says, what really hurts when you think about what the real Rahmanas is? Think about, he says, think about how great God is. He's going to tell you now how great Hashem is, how great the Neshama is above, and it comes down to this world. That's what hurts. But we don't mind so much if someone living in the inner city, lived the whole life in the inner city. But take a guy who was living in the suburbs and had it so good and had a beautiful home in a safe neighborhood and shove him into Locust Street. What do you mean? Everyone lives in Locust Street as this. Yeah, but I didn't grow up this way. I can't handle it. But he goes now to describe the greatness of godliness. He says, you want to know how great Hashem is? He says, the highest of the worlds, not just the spirituality of Asiya, not just Yitzira, not just Beria, not just Atzilus, I keep going up. The highest of the worlds, the loftiest of the angels, the loftiest of creations, the loftiest of the souls are insignificant before God. Once talking, I think it was here in this class, that the closeness between the highest angels in Atzilus, the little angels in Atzilus, the highest souls in Atzilus, and a little cricket, a bug, that difference is much closer, the difference between the angel and God. Meaning, because at least these two things are created existences. God is so much beyond it. The distance that Hashem had, that even the highest of created beings are like zero. How much value, like you take infinity, the number 1 to a billion is a big difference. But it's 1. And you take a billion ones, you get a billion. $1 billion bills, you get $1 billion. How much is a billion to infinity? There's no crows. Why? Because there's no way to get to infinity. So the distance, it's like, how long does it take to get to the end? Never. So the distance between the first time around and the 1,000th time around is no closer to the destination in an infinite circle. So the difference between the created beings, the highest level, is as significant as a paper cup here in this world. That means to Hashem, keep in mind that the angels, the malachim, that which could burn up the world in the fire, is nothing compared to Hashem, different than a paper clip. Different. Why? Because on that level, it's like someone saying there's some ants that are very smart, like ants that crawl on the floor, and the brilliant ants, and some are really smart. And Einstein is going to say, so which one do you think is smarter? They're all the same to me. What do you mean? There's genius ones. To Einstein, he's not even paying attention to a child, not even to a high school student, not even to a college student. You're going to want to know what he thinks about an ant. The difference between, like God, so he said this, the level of existence in this world, on the loftiest levels, is like nothing. Like Shais Tab once said such a great line. He says, if God had a resume, creation of the world wouldn't make it to the resume. The creation of the world wouldn't make it. It's insignificant. Nothing in the world stands like a. Kikol shepam. So sorry. Kikol shifam v'chayusam enirak miziv ha'ara. Now, why is this also insignificant? This is something very interesting. Everything is created, as we know. We learned in the last chapter, from the Yud and the Hey. All the higher worlds are made from the Yud, or more prevalent from the Yud, and the lower worlds from the Hey, the physical worlds. Where does it come from? First, you have God. Then you have God's name. God's name is not God. It's like the shame of something is not me. It's just a shame. No, what does it mean? Not for me. I don't have a use for a name. If I was the only guy on the planet, I wouldn't need a name. Why do I need a name? Well, there's 50 guys here, so you want to know which ones? You can either call me a number, hey, 32, or you can say Maishi. So it's easy. So, meaning names have no connection to my identity, myself. Now, that means we made a huge disconnect from the person, the name. Then, or from Hashem in this case. Then, from Hashem's name itself, we're taking a letter from God's name, and we're coming through ha'ara, a light that shines off one of those things in a process of tremendous simsumim that we come down through different various processes. We explained exchanging letters till we finally get to this world. That means all of existence is an insignificant creation before God. all comes from one letter. Mishmai is one of Hashem's name. Like we said, when we say Elam Haba, we refer to all spiritual worlds. Elam Haba sometimes refers to Elam Haba, and here, like a lot of times, it just means to all the spiritual worlds are called Elam Haba, the spiritual realms. And into this insignificant, dark place comes down a soul. It's Rahmanis. If it would have been from a regular place, if the soul would have come down, from Asiya, the world of Asiya that we're in has two halves or two parts, the physical part and the spiritual part. So a spiritual part of Asiya, it's a big deal for a soul to come into the physical world. In the spiritual world, everything is truth and holiness. In the physical world, everything's dishonest. Like they used to say about newspaper, every single thing in their newspaper is a lie, including the date. It was printed yesterday. So nothing's true about the newspaper. Nothing's true in this world. Everything's a lie. So you come into this world, everything's a lie, and this soul comes down here. This is in general, but you want to talk about where this soul comes from and its source, where God comes from, where God lives. The level of Rahmanis is fantastic. But when we go into, as we'll continue next week, we'll see that we're going to discuss that the Rahmanis we have to have, and we're going to wake up this attribute of Yaakov, is the ability to have compassion on this godliness that comes down to this physical world, and it needs compassion. So where do you find love of God? And davening, you can have love, and you can have awe. Rahmanis is a meditation of what Hashem allowed a part of Himself. What's the soul? We said a number of times. It's a chelik elekami malmam, which is an actual part of God. That means an actual part of God coming and getting stuck. And by the way, I hate to bring this up, but just a fraction of that would be something that boggles our mind and breaks our spirits. Speaking about these kids who were kidnapped and put into the tunnels. And this is, by the way, in our world, and rightfully so, it is the most painful existence that we can think of in the last, I don't know how many years. What's going on with these kids and what we're finding out, what we're learning. And they just put out a video again. Yesterday, I didn't watch it. They just said a video came out when the mothers allowed them to share of a kid speaking. This is mind-boggling, but this is a human being taken by other human beings and being abused and mistreated in a horrible way. Imagine compounded thousands of times the level that we can't even relate to the highness. So, and like I said, to us, just the hostages breaks our hearts completely, as it rightfully should. So he says, the Rahmanis, imagine Rahmanis you have on these two little boys, yeah. So it's and you'd have to know them. And again, Rahmanis, you didn't have to know that person. One body can say, listen, I don't know God. I don't know that stuff. You don't have to know it. A person trips in the mall. You don't have to say, wow, I didn't know the person. So that was pretty cool. No, it doesn't matter. A stranger. They say even a person who catches, let's say, mice in a trap or something. If you're a good person, you actually feel bad to do it. I do it because I can't have mice in the basement, there's germs, etc. But I don't love the mouse, but I feel bad for it. That's Rahmanis. I sometimes the guys, I can't do it. I can't catch them. Why? You know the guys? No, I feel bad. So if this is true, imagine here, we wouldn't have to know and be experts in knowing godliness. The fact that we're aware of someone in distress hurts us if you have a regular heart. Okay, we'll stop here. Yeah.